Is it visible now, cursor movement? Rutvik?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
Okay. So in the previous class, we were discussing about this impedance Z of x using a trigonometric function. So as we were discussing this impedance Z of x, it is an important parameter of a transmission line, okay, at RF and microwave frequencies. This input impedance changes as we move away from the load point. See, like this is a load point here. So as we move like this towards the source, impedance changes, and it is a function of distance here. Based on the distance, at what distance you are, the value of Zx will be changed. So using that property, we are implementing many devices, passive devices like a phase shifter, it is a capacitor, inductor, resistance, and also we are implementing like filters, combiners, power dividers. Those can be implemented using this property. This find many applications. Okay, so that's why we are giving more concentration on the input impedance of the transmission line at any position. So impedance, as we move like this, it changes, and it is a function of distance. So now instead of using this trigonometric function, we will write this in terms of instead of this exponential, this is a one to get that input impedance in terms of trigonometric function. So you take this equation, this is Z of x in terms of, see, like this, as you look into this direction, okay, that is impedance is given by this equation. It is a function of distance x here. So now rearranging this equation, that is TOEL. In the previous class we derived expression for TOEL. TOEL means what? Only this TOEL. TOEL is the reflection coefficient at the load point. That is here we discussed here. If you measure the reflection coefficient here at the load position, that is x is equal to L, that is equal to TOEL. Okay, that we got from this in the previous class I told here. Okay, so that is given by ZL minus Z0 divided by ZL plus Z0. So if you know ZL and characteristic factors of the transmission line, we can get what is the reflection coefficient here. Okay, but it doesn't remain same as you move. See, if you move like it is here equal to this. Okay, that means how much this reflected wave deviates from the incident wave. So incident wave is incidenting on that, a part of the wave reflect here. So what is the amplitude of this and phase of this reflected wave at the load position? With respect to this, we can get from this equation, that is a TOEL here. Okay, only at this position. But if you move like this, okay, if you want to measure toe, it is not equal to the TOEL here. Okay, it is different here. Even a small movement, if you do like this, reflection coefficient changes. Okay, only at load position here it is equal to this value. So using this TOEL equation here in this TOEL, okay, TOEL, it is ZL minus Z0 divided by ZL plus Z0. Similarly you do for here also, this is the one here. Next you take a LCM, and this is the equation here, this multiplied by this. Okay, it is in the denominator. Similarly this multiplied by this, that is what we have here. And this is in the denominator. So denominator, this and this will cancel, remaining is only this term and this term. Next this is what we have multiply this to this, and also similarly this we will be getting this equation. Okay, next further simplifying, keeping ZL term at one side and Z0 term at the other side, and take a Z0 outside and ZL outside here, we will be having this equations. Okay, now further taking this outside, this is the term here I have taken outside. Similarly you take it in the denominator also, you will be getting this. So this is a ZL, this becomes ZL because we took this outside. This term should be divided by this value because we took this outside, it is not here, so it is this value. Similarly here. Okay, so now this cancels here, we can cancel this, and the remaining is only this part here. Okay, now write this writing this Okay, in the proper way, see like this, e to the power minus gamma x. Okay, so to this first term you multiply and multiply by this term. You see here, e to the power minus gamma l, e to the power plus gamma l, so it is nothing but a 1 here. So it is 1 here, means that can be written like this. Okay, because to make it similar to this, we are doing that. So do that, and writing this minus 2 gamma l, splitting that and writing like this, two terms exponentials. Okay, this one it is here. So now similarly you do for this term also in the denominator of this. Similarly this and this you can write like this by splitting the exponential and adding as exponential. Okay, now in this numerator, this term and this term, if you take e to the power minus gamma l outside here and also here, it is like this. Similarly in the denominator you do like this. Okay, the remaining term is here like this here. Okay, so finally what we will be getting, these two will be cancelling and remaining is this here. So this L minus x, it is a distance from the load point. At what distance you are from the load, that we can that is represented by the d, that is equal to L minus x here. This is up to this, it is x, from here to here is a x here, and from here to here is L here. So L minus this x gives the at what distance you are from the load point. This is a load point, so from here to here is a d, that is d is equal to L minus x. So substituting L minus x is a d, this term. Okay, you can, it is power gamma d e to the power minus gamma d. Similarly e to the power gamma minus plus d and minus gamma d. Here it is a plus sign, here is a minus sign. So this is a sign of hyperbolic function. You can write it as a divide by 2 and multiplied by 2. See, for this you can do divide by 2 and multiplied by. Similarly divide by 2, multiply by 2. This numerator term can be written as the sign of hyperbolic gamma d, because the j term is not there. Okay, e to the power j theta minus e to the power minus j theta, you will be getting sin theta. But if it is only e to the power theta plus e to the power theta minus e to the power minus theta, if j term is not there, then it becomes a hyperbolic function. Okay, so this is j term is not there, it is a hyperbolic function. Okay, sin hyperbolic d gamma d, this is cos hyperbolic gamma d here. So that is a tan hyperbolic gamma d, this one. Similarly this you can write, it is equal to this here. Okay, zn tan of hyperbolic gamma d. So this is a z of x in terms of trigonometric function. Okay, we will use this in the next sections. Okay, so that's why we should know this, and you can easily remember this one. Okay, so that is a expression, it gives the impedance at any position from the load. D is at what position you are from the load. Okay, that position impedance you can find using this equation. Okay, hello, is it audible? Hello, is it audible?
Yes, ma'am.
And cursor movement is visible? Hello, Namita? Hello, Namita?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it audible, cursor movement? Sorry, cursor movement is visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. Kavya? Kavya? Hello? Kavya is present?
Yes, ma'am.
Cursor movement is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is the equation, z of x equation. Okay. Next we will see here characteristic impedance. See, in this equation we have a term z0. What is this z0? It is called as a characteristic impedance of the transmission line. Z0 is here. Okay, this is called as a characteristic impedance of the transmission line. It is a unique for every transmission line. you take a transmission line. There are different type of transmission lines are there, as we discussed. See, like this, it may be a coaxial line like this, it may be a two-wire line, or it may be a microstrip line like this. This is a microstrip line. Okay, so that characteristic impedance is unique for that particular transmission line. And again, based on the physical dimensions of this, based on the physical dimensions of the one, now the value will be calculated. Okay, so for every transmission line, you take any transmission line. Okay, that transmission line is represented by two wires like this, two-wire conductor. It may be of any shape. It consists of two wires. See, like this coaxial cable. It consists of two conductors, outer conductor and the inner conductor. It is represented like this, two-wire conductor. Okay. Similarly, this is a two-wire conductor itself. That is also represented like this. Next, if you consider this microstrip line, it is also a two-conductor transmission line. Two-conductor transmission line means one is the strip like this. Okay, another is the bottom. There is a conductor. This is a conductor. This is a conductor, and in between that there is a dielectric material is there with a particular thickness here H. Its permittivity is epsilon r. Okay, this is also consists of two conductors, or this one and this bottom. So again it is represented like this. So all these transmission lines exhibits one characteristic impedance. It is a unique, and it doesn't change as for a given transmission line. It remains the same Z0. Okay, so then that's the main what we were seeing in the earlier classes. Okay, that is a characteristic impedance of the transmission line. So what we need to do, we should match this ZL to the characteristic impedance of the transmission line. It's a very important. Otherwise reflection will take place. Okay, so that's why characteristic impedance is very important here. Then how to get the value of that Z0 value, or what is the definition of this Z0? Okay, so it is a definition of this Z0 here. Characteristic impedance is defined as the impedance seen looking into an infinite line. So if you look into the infinite transmission line, you take any of this. Okay, this one or this one, anyone. You take a infinite line like this. Okay, L tends to infinity. You see, you measure the impedance. That is the ratio of voltage divided by current on such a line. This is a infinite line. You see, it is not limited its length. It's the infinite. Okay, so automatically if you close here, if you connect a source here, there is a flow of current because of all these components. See, this is a transmission line. It may be infinite in length, but it consists all these components here, components like this. Because of that, there is a flow of current here. Even it is a look like a open circuit, but it is because of infinite line, assuming it is a infinite, physically it is not available, but assuming, okay, there is a current flow. That is a ratio of V of x divided by I of x. Sorry, okay, impedance. So that ratio gives the characteristic impedance. It is a ratio of voltage to current on a infinite long transmission line. Okay, or it is also is a ratio of voltage to current when there is no reflection on the transmission line. Another definition. See, one of the definition is characteristic impedance is defined as a ratio of voltage and current when the transmission line is infinite. Okay, see, like this. It is represented like this. It is 10 to infinity. Ratio of voltage to current looking like this. It gives the characteristic impedance. Other definition is, see, characteristic impedance is defined as the ratio of the voltage and current when there is no reflection on the transmission line. When there is no reflection on the transmission line. What is the meaning of that? You see here, if you consider this line, okay, it is infinite in length. So the wave will travel like this. It never find a load because it is infinite in long. It cannot reflect back because it is length is a infinite. That wave travels along this. Finally, it may die down to zero. It never reflect back. So it is how can we define a reflection? This characteristic impedance is, it is the ratio of voltage to current when there is no reflection on the transmission line. When there is no reflection, if the line is infinite in nature, because the wave to reflect back, there must be a discontinuity, or it must be a finite in length, or it may be connected to some load, but it is infinite length. It doesn't find any disturbance to reflect back that wave, simply it travels. So there is no reflected wave. So if such a line is there, if there is no reflection from the one, okay, if there is no reflected wave on that particular line, if you take a ratio of voltage to current, that is called as the impedance, characteristic impedance of the transmission line. So where there is no reflection, if the line is infinite in length, then there is no reflection. So on such a line, if you take a ratio of voltage and current, that gives the characteristic impedance of the line. Okay. Other thing is, you see, if you take a transmission line, if it is finite in length, but it is connected with a characteristic impedance itself, it is terminated with the characteristic impedance itself, then there is no reflection here, is correct. It is a Z0, it has a Z0 characteristic impedance, but it is also terminated with a characteristic impedance like this. Then as we saw in theory, there is no reflection. Okay, automatically if you measure the impedance, if you measure the impedance like this, looking like this, it is equal to Z0. That is a characteristic impedance. Okay, that is what you are the impedance in looking into a finite length, see, like a finite length. Okay, that is terminated in a load with equal to the characteristic impedance of the line. Then also there is no reflected wave. Now you take, this is a finite in length but terminated in a characteristic impedance. Now if you measure the impedance at any point, it is also equal to characteristic impedance. Okay, so like that, this is the definition of characteristic impedance. Okay, it is the ratio of voltage to current when there is no reflection on the transmission line. Okay, or it is a ratio of voltage to current of a infinite long transmission line. Okay, so this is about this. But okay, as we said, it is a ratio of voltage to current of a infinite line. But how to get it? Okay, practically it is not possible. It's correct, infinite line. Then how to measure the value? How to calculate a Z0? Anyway, it is a impedance. How to get the value of Z0? Okay, actually this Z0 you can calculate. Okay, it depends on the physical parameters of the transmission line. This Z0 depends on the physical parameters of the transmission line. There are equations are available. Using those equations, we can find the characteristic impedance Z0 here. Okay, so that we will see here. So now here, this is a characteristic impedance. It's also defined as the square root of ratio of series impedance per unit length to the shunt admittance per unit length of a transmission line. Okay, it is given by like this. This is the ratio of Z by Y. What is this Z? This is the series impedance of the transmission line. What is Y? Admittance of the shunt admittance of the transmission line. So this, take any transmission line, either it may be like this way or this way, that is represented by like this. That is represented by like this equivalent circuit. It has a series impedance. Series impedance is R plus j omega L, and shunt admittance, that is G plus j omega C here. Okay, every transmission line is represented by this equivalent circuit. It has a series impedance, that is a Z, and a shunt admittance. Okay, so series impedance is given by Z, shunt admittance is given by Y. So if you take a ratio of those two, it gives the characteristic impedance. So what is this Z? That Z is R plus j omega L, series impedance. Y is a G plus j omega C. Okay, what is this R? It is the resistance offered by the transmission line per unit length. Per unit length, this transmission line offers this much of resistance. Similarly, it offers a inductor of this value. Okay, that is RLGC. Okay, you if you know those things, those parameter, they are also called as primary constants. Okay, RLGC are called as the primary constant. If you know those, okay, we can get the value of characteristic impedance. Again, this RLCG depends upon the structure here. You see here, for example, if you take a coaxial cable, its inductor value is given by this equation. It depends upon B means radius of the one, radius of this radius of the inner conductor, radius of the outer conductor. Inner conductor radius is A, outer conductor radius is B. You take that, and this gives the inductor per unit length of this. Similarly, capacitance Hopper per unit length of this coaxial cable is given by this equation. So there are already derived equations are there how to calculate a inductor per unit length, capacitor per unit length of these structures. I have written here for this coaxial cable, that is like this. Okay, so if you know this parameters, we can get a characteristic impedance. See, for this coaxial cable, okay, that characteristic impedance is given by this equation. This is the equation. It depends upon the B, outer radius and inner radius of the conductors, and permittivity of the material in between the two conductor. This is a inner conductor, this is the outer conductor. In between that there is a space that is filled with the dielectric material with permittivity equal to epsilon r. So it depends upon all those parameters. Okay, similarly for this two wire line, this is a characteristic impedance. It depends upon distance between the lines, see D, and radius of this wire, that is a R here. Okay, so this one has the characteristic impedance of this. So it depends upon the physical dimension. Similarly, for this is a microstrip line. Characteristic impedance is given by this equation. This is the one if omega by h, sorry, W by h is less than 1. W means strip width. Okay, this is a ground plane, and this is a dielectric constant. It has a thickness equal to h. Okay, W by h is less than 1. This is a expression for characteristic impedance. Similarly, W by h is greater than 1. This is a equation for characteristic impedance. Okay, here is called as effective permittivity for microstrip line. That is calculated like this. Okay, it is epsilon r is permittivity of the dielectric material, but this structure has a effective permittivity. Okay, that depends upon this epsilon r. That we will study in the 4th unit or a 3rd unit, I think. Effective permittivity, we will concentrate at that time. Okay, individual transmission lines. Okay, so anyway, this characteristic impedance depends on the physical parameters of the transmission lines. Either for this two wire line like this, for a coaxial cable it is given by this equation, microstrip line it is given by like this. Okay, so if you know the parameters of this, you can calculate the characteristic impedance of these lines. Okay, so that we should know, otherwise we cannot match impedance matching, we cannot do. Okay, you should know the characteristic impedance of this transmission lines. See like this. And one thing what we have to keep it in here, the characteristic impedance does not depend upon the length of the transmission line. See, this is the length of the transmission line, but this characteristic impedance does not depend on length of the transmission line. It depends only on other parameters of the transmission line. Okay, so that is the characteristic impedance. Its definition is like this. Okay, it is a ratio of voltage to current of a infinitely long transmission line, or it is a ratio of voltage to current when there is no reflection on the transmission line. If an infinite line is there, then there is no reflection automatically. So it is a voltage to current ratio of that. Or it may be a ratio of voltage to current when the even it is a finite line, but it is terminated with the characteristic impedance are not like this. finite line terminated with characteristic impedance. Then also there is no reflection. If you take a ratio of voltage to current, then it is called as a characteristic impedance. Okay, so this is about definition of characteristic impedance of the transmission line. Okay, so if they ask what definition of the characteristic impedance, you have to say these are the examples I have given. If simply they ask you to give a definition, you should write this. Okay, infinite line you should write, and this is a definition, and the equation is like this. Okay, if you know all these parameter, primary constant RLCG, we can calculate the characteristic impedance of that particular line. Again, RLCG, they depends upon all these parameter. If the value based on the value of A and B of that particular coaxial cable A and B are not standard. They may be different, A and B. Okay, so depending on the frequency, actually A and B will change. Okay, if A and B changes, is even this structure is a coaxial cable. If A and B changes, then Z0 also changes. Okay, it is not constant for a given coaxial cable. Coaxial cable of A and B of coaxial cable they do not remain the same. Changes as the frequency changes. You can observe those, I think, in the microwave lab. Some coaxial cable are lesser in diameter, some are larger in diameter. That will based on usually the frequency. Okay, it will change. So this is a very important parameter in transmission lines. So this is what I have shown here. Coaxial cable, inner conductor, and this is the outer conductor. The source usually connected will be like this between the two conductors. Between the two conductors, usually source will be connected like this. Similarly here, see, this is for two-wire line, and microstrip line. This is the upper strip. This is the bottom is the lower conductor. In between that source will be connected like this. Okay, but some are there a single conductor, but earthing should be there like this. Okay, another terminal of the source must be connected to the earth or a ground, some ground plane or earth must be there. So like transmission lines. So it is a unique property of a transmission line, characteristic impedance, and it's very important parameter. That importance also I said significance. For that you should say all these things. That is a mismatch, what happens, reflection takes place, and all those things you should say. If they ask you to write a significance of the reflection coefficient. Okay, so this is about reflection characteristic impedance. Next we will take up this propagation constant gamma. Hello? 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 Is it audible? Hello? Pallavi? Pallavi is present? Pallavi?
Yes, ma'am.
Pavitra? Is the Pavitra present?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Rishabh? Rishabh?
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Okay. Shri Gauri? Shri Gauri?
Present, ma'am.
Present. See, all of you must present. We are taking a screenshot of your names. So we are taking. If automatically, if those who are absent will be put absent in the attendance register. Okay, all of you must present, and also you should answer whenever I call. For example, in between. Okay, Bhuvanaraj. Bhuvanaraj is present.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Okay, is it now visible? My PPT is visible now? Bhumika? Hello? Bhumika?
Yes, ma'am. Visible.
Visible. Cursor movement? Is it visible, cursor movement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, propagation constant, next term, it is a secondary constant of a transmission line. Propagation constant gamma and characteristic impedance Z0. See here, Z0 is their characteristic impedance Z0, and propagation constant gamma. They are called as secondary constant of the transmission line. LCG are called the RLCG, they are called the primary constant of the transmission lines. They depends upon the transmission line and expressed per unit length, these two. Okay, so now what is this propagation constant gamma? So this propagation constant gamma is given by this equation. It is equal to root of zy. What is this z? This is the series impedance of the transmission line. Y is the shunt admittance. If we take a product of those two, we will be getting the propagation constant. It is a complex number. Gamma is a complex. It is alpha plus j beta. We can write like this: alpha plus j beta. It is alpha, that is the real part of this gamma. Real part of the gamma is attenuation constant. Okay, so attenuation constant, its unit is Napier's per meter. It may be meter, centimeter, based on the application. Okay, it not always be not meter. Napier's per centimeter or Napier's per mm also, or it may be kilometer, but anyway it is the length here. Okay, phase constant, it is a phase also, it's a radian per meter. Okay, radian per meter. So now see here, the real part of the propagation constant is the attenuation constant and is denoted by the letter alpha. Okay, it is a measure of the change undergone by the amplitude of the wave as it propagate in a given direction. It says how much change in the amplitude of the signal or wave when it propagates over a transmission line. Alpha, this term alpha says how much change in amplitude takes place. It may be increase in amplitude or decrease in amplitude based on the direction. Okay, when the whenever a wave travels over a transmission line, see, wave travels like this, or it may be traveling, you may travel like this or you may travel like this over a transmission line, is correct. See, if you move like this, is moving towards the source. If you move like this, it is moving towards the load here. So either you can move like this towards the load or you can move towards the source like this. Okay, how the amplitude of the signal changes, that is given by the alpha here. Okay, so amplitude of the so this is the amplitude of the signal. Usually what we say amplitude means peak to peak amplitude. For example, if you consider this wave, it is like this. As you move towards the load, its amplitude is decreasing. Okay, so that is given by this term e to the power minus alpha x. Minus alpha x, automatically this is a decreasing in amplitude as the distance increases. As the distance increases, amplitude decreases here. So here it says how the amplitude of the signal decreases as you move towards the load. But if you move like this towards the source, distance decreases, automatically this wave amplitude increases. So anyway, what does it says? Alpha, it says how the amplitude of the signal changes as we move towards the either forward direction or a backward direction. So now for example, if you move like this in the forward direction, okay, so amplitude is decreasing here, decreasing. At what rate it decreases, that is said by this alpha. Per unit length, how much decrease is there. If you know the value of alpha, we can say how much is the attenuation. That is decrease in amplitude means attenuation. How much amplitude decreases by the time it reaches a particular distance. Okay, so because alpha is given by in Napier's per meter. Per meter, how much it is decreases. Okay, so here is more the value of this alpha, more the decrease. It will decreases more by the time it. For example, 2 Napier's per meter, 2 Napier's or 4 meters per Napier. 4 Napier's per meter means more it decreases. Okay, it's like this. Based on the value of this alpha, we can say how much it decreases. Okay, so if you know this alpha, we can come to know how far it can travel before it reaches a particular destination point. For example, this I know the length of the line. For example, I know this length of the line. You can calculate input in amplitude, input amplitude, and we know the length of the line. Okay, and we know alpha at what rate it varies. Okay, so we can calculate by the time it reaches this point what is the amplitude of this. Okay, bit for example it decreases by 2 volts per meter, 2 volts per meter, 10 volts I have given here. Okay, length of the line for example it is equal to 4 meters, for example 4 meter. This is a 10 volts I have given. If it decreases by 2 volts, 2 volts per meter, then we will be getting only 2 volts here by the time it reaches here, because per meter it is decreasing by a rate of 2 volts. Okay, if it travels a distance of 4 meter, 8 volts it amplitude decreases. Automatically by the time it reaches here we will be getting only 2 volts. 10 volts sent here, only 2 volts will be getting here by the time it reaches here. So based on the length, how much length it travels, you can calculate what is the amplitude received here. Okay, that's why it is a very important parameter. More the value of this, more the loss, that is called as also loss on the transmission line. So usually what we want, this alpha should be as less as possible. Otherwise what happens, the signal may becomes very weak by the time it reaches the load. What we want, a lossless line. Lossless line means usually we want alpha should be 0, 0. Okay, then it becomes a lossless line, but always alpha will be there. But usually we should choose the line whose value alpha must be as less as possible. Okay, that is very important parameter, attenuation constant. Okay, it says how much variation is there in the amplitude of the signal as it travels over a transmission line or a propagate over a transmission line. Lesser the value, less the change in the amplitude of the signal. Okay, similarly beta is called as, and also this alpha in many times it is instead of expressing Napier spin per meter, it is also expressed in dB per meter. See, in most of our RF and microwave frequency applications, RF and microwave applications, instead of saying Napier per meter, it is expressed in terms of dB per meter. How many dBs it decreases as it travels over a transmission line. Okay, 2 dB per meter, 3 dB per meter, it decreases 3 dB per meter, it may be 0.5 dB per meter. So more the value of this, then more the attenuation. Okay, okay, you should keep a 0 dB means less attenuation. Okay, less that. Similarly, there is another term, phase constant beta. This phase constant is a measure of the change undergone by the phase of the wave as it propagation in a given direction. So as a signal travel like this, what is the change in the phase of the signal? By the time it reaches here, what is the phase of the signal? With respect to the input wave, see we are applying a signal here. Okay, you take any particular instant of time, measure the difference in phase between the received signal here and the signal present here at that particular time. That gives the change in the phase of the signal by the time the signal reaches at this position. It's correct, phase constant. So what's the meaning of that? See, we are at t is equal to 0, we are sending a signal, and at t is equal to some time, t is equal to 2 seconds, it will reach here. Okay, you measure the phase of the signal here. At t is equal to, after 2 seconds it will come here. And at the same time, after 2 seconds you take a signal present here and the signal present here. Automatically there is a difference in phase between this signal and this signal, because the signal here is already changed here. It is actually what we are observing here, it is not because of the present phase, it is because of the previous phase. Okay, because it is a phase, time, as a time changes, phase of the signal here is changing. So for some time the signal is here, but it traveled over here. Okay, by the time that signal reached here, already here the phase of the signal changed here. So if you measure this at a particular instant of time, if you measure the phase difference between the received signal here and here, they are different. Okay, that is called as a phase difference, and it depends upon the length here, length of the line. Lesser the length, a small difference is there between the signal measured here and the signal measured at a particular instant of time. Okay, what we are observing here is not because of the present signal here, it is because of the previous phase signal. Okay, so like that. So that depends upon the length. Longer the distance it travels, more the phase difference between the signal present here and the signal present here. And also it increases as a frequency increases. It is a function of frequency, phase difference. Okay, so that is a phase constant here at a particular instant of time. If we measure signal present here and signal present here, they have a phase difference. Okay, automatically that is called as a phase constant, and it depends upon the length, how long for that signal traveled, one. Okay, so that is unit is radian per meter. This unit is radian per meter. Okay, per length, unit length, it undergoes particular phase. Again, it depends upon the frequency also. Okay, so it is also very important one that decides the delay also, delay of the signal. Okay, so we will see in depth about that phase constant in the next topics also. So that is a propagation constant here, sorry, propagation constant. Okay, it is consists alpha and beta, attenuation constant and the phase constant. They are the meaning, they are very important as we know here, because we should know them, because it is a load here. Okay, so as in the application, see here, okay, here, okay, the signal will travel like this from here to here, it will be traveling. So what we are expecting, if it is a TTL gate, TTL IC, TTL is a circuit is there, by the signal travels from here to here. By the time it traveling from here to here, it will decrease in amplitude because of alpha. If it decreases lesser than its input value, whatever TTL means, it needs at least 3 volts. If the amplitude becomes lesser than 3 volt, even you send here positive one, by the time that is a logic 1, by the time if amplitude decreases by low and it becomes lesser than 3 volts, then it will treat that as a zero logic signal. So like that attenuation, why the signal reduces by the time it reaches here, because of attenuation over this alpha. Okay, so alpha should not decrease the amplitude below 3 volts. If it decreases below 3 volts, because of the alpha, this will not treat that as a logic Y, it will be treating that as a logic 0. Similarly, the signal will travel over here. Okay, the phase of the signal depends upon the length here. If this introduces a more phase variation, for example, signal leaves here and by the time it reaches here, it undergoes 180-degree phase shift, then it will be treated as a negative logic instead of a positive logic. Okay, so like it will affect the function of this mixer. Okay, the opposite signal level will be taken by this mixer. So that's why alpha and beta are very important parameters here. Even it's a small length, even in the order of mm, or it may be in the order of okay, centimeter, or how much variation takes place as a signal travels over this, it is also very important. Okay, that's why this propagation constant what we are having here. At high frequency, we must consider those. At low frequencies, they are not at all considered. Okay, they are neglected. Alpha and beta are neglected, but we cannot neglect at a RF and microwave frequency. That's why we are stressing this content now, because everything nowadays, every application is pushing to the higher frequency range. Okay, in the order of 50 gigahertz, 100 gigahertz, like that. Okay, to increase the bandwidth. As the frequency increases, so these are all the problems. Amplitude variation is a problem, phase variation is also a problem, characteristic impedance is also a problem. Okay, so that's why we are studying the effect of all these in depth in this course. Okay, so this is about alpha and beta of the propagation constant. Okay, So now this alpha and beta depends on the LCGR, that is a primary constant of the transmission line. See, alpha is a, as I said, it is a per unit length. Okay, alpha equal to 2 dB per meter, 3 dB per meter. Okay, so that is depends upon the primary constant of this transmission line, that is here LCG or LCG. They alpha depends upon these values. Okay, how the alpha what way it is related to this RLCG, that is given in this equation here, this derivation. Okay, relation between propagation constant gamma and primary constant RLCG. Okay, there is a derivation how it is related. So now you can see here this gamma is it is a propagation z and y, square root of zy. If you do like this, it is alpha plus j beta. So this is a one word we have, alpha plus j beta. So this if you take this equation and square on both the sides, this take here and this one is here, square both the sides. Okay, we will be getting this equation. This is squaring of this, we will be getting this squaring. Next you expand it and multiply. Okay, you will be getting this equation. Now rearranging this. Okay, rearranging equating real part of this. This is a expanded like this, then this is the real part and this is the imaginary part here. Now comparing the real part and imaginary part of this this equation, see like this, real part and imaginary part, and rearranging this. Okay, you will be getting like this, and finally some doing some mathematical manipulations over all this I have written here. You can go through, you can get, see here, this is a equation here, you can express it as a quadratic equation like this. Now the solution for this it is this what we have, alpha and beta. Okay, so you can get a relation now. So what we have, only this started from z of square root of zy. Okay, you took a multiplication and did some mathematical manipulations like this. Finally what we have, we separated the alpha and beta. So this is alpha and this is a beta. You can now see this alpha. Okay, you practice this, whatever I will give you this, you practice this, finally you will be having this equation. If you take a square root of this, sorry, solution for this quadratic equation, solution is in this part, that is plus or minus some equation is there, quadratic solution of quadratic equation. If you apply that, we will be getting this. Okay, so this is alpha is given by this equation and beta is given by this equation. So you can now see alpha depends upon primary constants RLCG. Okay, if you know the value of RLCG and operating frequency, you can get the value of alpha. Okay, similarly if you know the value of RLCG, see here, we can get the value of beta. Okay, again characteristic impedance also you can get if you know the RLCG. Similarly, propagation constant also you can come to know what is alpha, how much attenuation is there over the line. Main thing is get the value of RLCG for a given line, for a given line. See, in the internet, if you go through internet, you can find what is the how to calculate LCG of any transmission line. You search in internet. Okay, you can find what is the expression for L, C, G and R of a particular transmission line. Tables available. Okay, using that table you can find the values of LCG of that particular transmission line. Okay, so if you know those, you can get the value of alpha and beta. So this decides, again RLCG decides the attenuation constant and also beta constant. Okay, it not only RLCG depends upon, you see here, alpha, that is attenuation constant, depends on the frequency. Omega means what? Frequency, that is 2 pi f. It depends upon the frequency. What is alpha then? Alpha is a attenuation, how the amplitude changes, or for example how the amplitude decreases as we travel towards the load. How much decrease is there, that is given by alpha, Napier's per meter. It depends upon the frequency. Okay, depends on frequency means, see, if you apply the signal here of a particular value, for example you are applying megahertz signal, calculate the frequency 1 megahertz. What is the attenuation, that you can calculate using this. Similarly, if a frequency is a 2 gigahertz, it is different. Attenuation is a function of frequency here. Okay, that is very important, you should keep it in mind. Attenuation doesn't remain same for all the frequencies, it changes with respect to frequency. Similarly, phase constant also depends on frequency, not only on RLCG, they depend on the frequency. It is a very important thing. Alpha is a function of frequency. It is a value depends. For example, at low frequency it may be very low. You see, it is a directly proportional. Alpha may be lesser at low frequency. Alpha may increase as a frequency increases. You see here, omega. It is a direct proportion. It may increase as a frequency increases. For example, if you go 100 gigahertz, what is alpha? At 1 megahertz, what is alpha? 1 megahertz, 100 megahertz. What is the difference in alpha? It is very much difference. What happens to the value of alpha? Okay, as the frequency changes, it's very important. We cannot simply here change the frequency, because alpha changes, attenuation changes on the line. Okay, so it depends upon again the values here. And also, while applying complex signal also here, complex signal means it consists of audio signal or it may be a video signal. Audio and video signals, what are those? They are the it is audio signal, its frequency varies from hertz to kilohertz. 20 kilohertz is correct. Audio range, audio signal range. What is audio signal range? It is a 0 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Similarly, video signal range, video signal frequency range up to megahertz. Okay, so it is not a voice signal. For example, you are sending a signal, voice signal. Voice signal means 0 frequency to 20 kilohertz. That if your voice signal travels here, that voice signal doesn't consist of single frequency. It is consists of frequencies from 0 to 20 kilohertz. So automatically, as the frequency changes, content of the frequency content of that voice also changes here. Attenuation for each frequency content changes. Okay, so that's why it is very, you will see that what is the problem, because alpha is a function of frequency. What are all the problems occur over a transmission line? And also because of beta, what are the problems here, function of frequency, what are the problems takes place on a transmission line, that we will see in the next class. Okay, so it is also very important. Simply we cannot say like alpha beta, okay, but in depth if you understand, there are a lot of issues are there with the alpha and beta. Okay, because alpha is a function of frequency, similarly beta is also a function of frequency. Not only they depend on constants, they also depend on frequency. In the next class we will see what are the problems introduced by this alpha and beta. Okay, okay. Hello Gagan is, are you listening? Gagan is present. Arshita R.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Shreyas.
I'm present, ma'am.
Present, okay. Vishwas.
Present, ma'am.
Present. Yashas.
Present, ma'am.
Present. Okay, fine. See, still 34 only there out of I don't know, up to 60 are there, only 34 present here. Okay, this is the attendance what you attended today. Okay, this attendance will be taken, and that I will be entering in the attendance register. And also, as I asked you, please answer whenever we call. Okay, if you find any problem, you can chat also. Okay, you send up if you do not find a PPT, a clear PPT, or if the voice is not clear. Okay, if a PPT is not visible properly. Okay. Okay, so in the next class we will continue, and we will see what are the problems here. Yes, yes. Is it visible PPT? Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Cursor movement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. We will see in the next, we will continue in the next class.